Mystique's offspring, it's time to dust off your starter jackets, rip off those tearaways and blow into your game cartridges. I'm Sam Blandford.
I'm Pat Sellers.
And I'm Sean Kelly. And we wish it was the 90s. Welcome back, everyone, to our run-through of the X-Men animated series. I think we're up to episode 10 or 11. It escapes me. Someone mucked up the orders. Probably me. Probably Disney, actually. Just off the top, if you want to catch us on the socials, you can hit us at hashtag WIWT90S on Insta or Twitter. And this podcast is available on multiple formats: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and the rest, or some of the rest. If you'd like to, give us a like, a review, a 5 stars, or, refer to a friend, or you just need something that puts you to sleep at night, we really appreciate anything. So today
Great
we're
job.
covering...
That was fantastic.
Yeah,
Bob.
outstanding admin.
Thank you.
Almost like you'd written it
Very
down.
professional.
I don't write anything down. So today's episode, it's a 6-episode doozy. One Man's Worth, 1 and 2. Proteus, 1 and 2. Family Ties and Bloodlines. Boys were chatting off air earlier, and Pat and I discussed that perhaps we both liked 4 out of 6 episodes today, and I'll be intrigued to see as we go if we like them. I suspect Sam's just pointed out that he likes 3. I wonder if there's one that he doesn't like that me and Pat like, probably for obvious atheistic reasons.
Yeah.
No,
that comprises most of my notes for that episode as well. It's just, I bet Sam's hating this.
Yeah, you were right, but I didn't mind the episode actually. No, I liked One Man's Worth, and I liked the Nightcrawler ep at the end.
You didn't like Family Ties?
Not really. Proteus was shit.
Yeah, Proteus was shit.
Proteus was the 2 that I didn't enjoy as much. Sorry. But I didn't hate any of them.
No, and
Proteus
has its moments, and we'll get into it. But let's start with One Man's Worth. An obvious homage to, I think, the, as aforementioned in previous episodes, now classic 1995 Age of Apocalypse. Follows a similar premise where someone goes back in time to try and kill Professor Xavier when he's younger, to stop the X-Men from forming and being a hindrance to the future. The significant difference is in Age of Apocalypse, it's Professor X's son, and he's not going back to kill Professor X, he's going back to kill Magneto. And Professor X jumps in the way of the bullet or something like that. But anyway, we open in 1959, and it's one of those, here's a scene that will come later. We get old mate Nimrod's back. We get an interesting look at a punk Storm. Bishop's back, and a younger Professor X is there, and there's an explosion, and there's a bit of a no, and it cuts to 2055. Forge is back, Bishop and Bishop's sister Shard, and they have to go back in time to fix something or other. Then we're back in the normal time, and there's some sort of temporal disturbance, and the X-Men were having a picnic, and then it cuts to this alternate timeline, which is actually quite mint. We see Meg, Beast, Storm in the punk gears, a few cameos throughout that we might talk about later. And essentially the whole idea of this is Bishop and Shard go back to the normal timeline to try and avert this crisis. They take Punk, Storm, and Meg back to 55 to save the Professor. Some interesting 1955 scenes, and the episode actually finishes with them losing in a to be continued. What do you think of part 1, lads?
I particularly liked the end when Chuck trips the fuse and everything goes in slow-mo. Or is that the bit that's at the start as well?
Yeah.
Like, the electronic fuse.
I've got that as well. I've got a few interesting notes. Quite like the names of the coffee house heavies, Moose and Rocco.
Yeah, they were my faves. There's a couple of episodes in this string of 60 episodes where like you get introduced to these like weird sidekick heavies. They're always real interesting characters.
Yeah. So just quickly on this Age of Apocalypse thing. So we actually get some of the Age of Apocalypse costumes pop up. So Age of Apocalypse Sabretooth, a character called Wild Child who's kind of from the Age of Apocalypse. Colossus is in his AOA kit. Sunfire is as well. Nightcrawler's there. Sinister's there. Gambit's there, but in his normal clothes. Rogue in a big trench. We get a glimpse of maybe some Avengers as well. And a really awesome bearded Magneto who gets referred to as the leader.
Fuck me.
He's so
cool.
jacked as well in this. The future Magneto is massive. He's been hitting the roids hard.
I think you'll be proud to know. Oh, sorry, carry on, Sean.
No, you go.
Oh, future Storm and Meg, or past Storm and Meg, or this Meg and Storm relationship. What? How good is that?
Stig. Stig. Yeah. I got it written down here as Stig. I'm a big fan of Stig.
Yeah.
I think you just insulted the woman I love, lowlife.
Oh, is that when? Is that at the bar with the real racist bar opener? And she's like,
Yeah.
I love it. Her response to that's quite, man. She's like, skin color prejudice.
Didn't she
So
call
pathetic,
it quaint?
it's almost quaint.
Storm's mint.
Yeah, that's it.
And a couple other notes. So when we see the scene of this new villain Fitzroy, who's making a deal with Master Mold in the future, they refer to someone as Lobdell, who is a reference to Scott Lobdell, who wrote a lot of X-Men comics in the 90s.
Scott Lobdell or Lopdell?
Lob.
I grew up with a Scott Lopdell.
Oh.
Used to watch Transformers with him, actually.
Oh, that's quality stuff.
Master Mold and Fitzroy's relationship is quite weird, eh? Like Master Mold has a bit more personality than he has in previous ones. He has a little bit of sass. Like Fitzroy, has a little bit of bat chat to him, and he goes, "Whatever." Master Mold's sassy.
What did you guys think of Fitzroy's 2IC?
Yeah,
Phantom.
There's heaps of those little characters, eh? Like
real,
like 4 foot Billy Corgan.
Yeah, like what's Igor type characters.
Yeah.
Other things I noted was in 1955, Professor X is talking to a Dr. John Grey, who is Jean Grey's father. And then he says, when someone says to him, "Read my mind to find out if it's true," he says, "I don't like to use my powers." What a crock of shit.
Yeah. The other thing is that I picked up is the past Chuck looks, if anything, older than present day Chuck.
The only way to know he's from the past is that he's not in a floaty chair.
He's not in Rogue's arms.
He's not getting bodyguarded around.
I'm jumping ahead a bit here, but am I right in saying Squinty is not in any of these episodes that we watched?
I think that's fair.
But
I don't think I noticed, but I did enjoy this string. So yeah,
something I've picked up on from season 4 is some of the voice actors I think are different. So I think I mentioned in the last podcast that Apocalypse was different. I reckon Bishop's voice is Cyclops.
They do, because that's quite common in animated stuff to have voice doubles, right? You know, the Simpsons have people who do.
And I was like, who the hell is that?
Someone else spoke in this episode, in the series. Nightcrawler, I thought his accent sounded different.
No one else sounds like God Boy.
Shall we jump into episode 2 then?
Yeah, the animation I think is starting to really fall apart in some parts too. But anyway, yeah, still great stuff. It kind of makes it.
Not that you guys watch the intro, but you know if it's going to be an average animated episode if they play the different intro song. Not song, but animations for the intro.
Yeah,
And the song is slightly different. So episode 2 opens back in 2055 in an alternative future. Things have changed again. Master Mold rules all. Forge is some sort of cyborg who doesn't remember anything because the timeline's changed, and now there's green sentinels, and they convince Forge to send them back, and so they make it back to 55, and I guess this is what highlights the dangers of time travel. It's like if you can travel in time, why don't you just keep going back until you get it right? And they do. They sort of convince Fitzroy that he's going to get stitched up if Master Mold's going to stitch him up no matter what. And it kind of finishes with Fitzroy mind wiping Professor X so that the timeline stays the same. But then at the very end of the episode, Storm and Meg are talking in the normal timeline, and Professor X seems to allude to the fact that he knows about a timeline where they're a couple. And if he knows this and hasn't told them, he's just even more of a jerk.
100%.
Half the course for Chuck.
Terrible bloke. Thoughts on Ep 2? I've got a few notes, but nothing major.
I think, I'm not entirely sure, see if anyone else has any notes throughout this, but I think smell powers make an appearance for Nimrod in this episode, and I think that's the only time in these 6 episodes that they come through.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I thought smell powers solved everything, but
When you try to jump on Nimrod's back, and funnily enough,
I've got
it
that
didn't work.
written down. What's my note? Meg jumps on Nimrod's back and gets flipped off immediately.
so when he says, "Let's see what you had for breakfast."
Yes.
Meg
Other things I noticed was when they're in the new 2055, Bishop has just been an absolute jerk to Forge, and it's like, you need this guy. He doesn't remember. It's not his fault.
This is when I have the question: does Forge have his powers at that point?
Yes, but he must do.
What does his powers remind me?
He can build whatever he can think of.
So he's welding at one point in that part.
He still uses tools.
Why would he be welding?
He's just really, really good at welding, though.
Oh, so I thought his was like whatever he's thinking of, it like comes to fruition.
Oh no, he still
basically.
has to build.
The blueprints sort of come from his mind. You can do that.
Okay, makes sense.
He's an extremely good engineer.
The other thing I noticed is we don't often get to see Bishop actually using his powers, which is nice, which is absorbing whatever and then channeling it into those blasts that come out of his fists, which I just showed you guys, but no one else can see.
Meg with mascara looks friggin' awesome.
Oh, yeah, I've written that down
that's
as
good
well.
stuff.
Yeah.
There's not enough body slides.
Yeah.
Body slide by 3.
I thought by now it was part and parcel. If it was time travel, Cable would be in there.
As a part that made me really laugh, and the only reason I laugh because the Stonecutter Simpsons episode at the end, I think it's that episode where Marge and Homer are like talk, and Bart and Lisa are there. Like, there's you're in a special group with special rings. Referring to their wedding rings, and Bart and Lisa are like yeah, and they blow into their rings.
Those like power pop rings or whatever they are.
And there's a point that sounds like that where they're talking about their armbands. It's like, our armbands have the coordinates, and they like point on their armbands. Have those armbands come up any other time?
They use them in the original Bishop story.
thought
I
they
feel
had
like they did
wrist.
the first time we got to see the time jockeys. I'm sure Forge explained how it all worked, and he gave them some sort of
Yeah, and it was supposed to go to old Meg, but instead it went to Bishop.
And when it went time traveled at one point, and they end up like falling into a bush. Before it just said, "Meanwhile, elsewhere" was the title. That's all it said. No, it's a bit lazy.
Now you know.
After this, I had a thing written down, a question for you guys. So, do you guys like episodes, an X-Men episode, when there is lots of fighting or action, or none at all? What do you prefer?
I think I prefer the
say in between.
I think I prefer the character interactions.
Yeah, so that's a good way to answer it.
Right.
Like if there's a ton of action throughout an episode, these episodes are 20 minutes long, and 10 minutes of that is the intro song. Like if you got 9 minutes of action,
throw in a 3-minute previously on.
Yeah. So you got to have it. Yeah, you don't want to have none, but if your options were none or 9 minutes of action, I'd probably go none.
This is how I defend my answer. I think if I had to choose between 20 minutes of Magneto using his powers or a 20-minute speech from Magneto, I'd take the speech.
You do like the spoken word, though.
You also don't get to have like your side characters, like the heavies that show up in this episode, or your Chets and Bantams.
Chet! Who was Chet's 2IC?
He was 2IC to the Solar.
Who was the one who had booger powers?
Oh, Toad.
Toad was very Bantam-like, I thought.
Yeah.
Or Bantam was very Toad-like. I don't know which way it should go.
Anyway, I like them. I like all of them.
That's good.
I'm pretty sure.
I like no action.
Yeah, fair. Bishop's legs are getting bigger, I think. Like, they are huge. Like, he is just an absolute mountain of a man. He doesn't need powers at this point.
No, he is ginormous. Let's hope that's not the last we've seen of Bishop. Should we get
Definitely
into
not
Proteus?
these next. Yeah, let's. You could probably do these two together. Fuck me.
Fly through Proteus. Yeah, I can do part 1 and 2 together.
Okay, so part 1. So Moira's got a secret son, Kevin, or Proteus, hidden away because of his unstable powers, and he breaks free. So the Prof, Beast, Meg, and Rogue head off to help him. He can possess people. He knocks out Banshee real early on, probably to make way for some romantic tension. And he can also warp reality and is telepathic. He doesn't really have any emotional balance, probably because he's been locked up his whole life. He can't work out why people are scared of him, and he decides he wants to find his father, who is running an electoral campaign in Edinburgh based around family values, where you can see why that's not going to go well. Then part 2, Meg's really messed up after Proteus does a number on him, really warps Meg's reality, and he battles, which is kind of mint because that happens in the Proteus saga in the comics. And I mean, you'd hate it because Cyclops starts abusing him to like get his anger back up to try and fight him to make him snap out of it. But it's great leadership. Turns out old man McTaggart's a real jerk, and based on those powers described, the X-Men have no real answers to fighting Proteus. Proteus gate crashes a couple of Daddy's rallies, and then finally Professor X lets Proteus possess him, and for some reason the little chat they have works. And it almost seems as though Professor X is going to be like his stepdaddy.
I've got sort of just more a comment and then one question that could lead to more questions. Mm-hmm. The best part of this entire two-parter was the 2 or 3 minutes that they did the backstory about Chuck and Moira, and doing the absolute classic of heading off to war, so quickly propose to your missus before you go. And that obviously doesn't work out. But my question is, so he goes off to war, Chuck's all lonely, and Moira ends up marrying Joe McTaggart. But she's always been Moira McTaggart as far as I know. This marriage didn't seem to last long. Was she a McTaggart already? And were
She's
they
saying
both
she married
McTaggart?
a cousin.
Well, that's where the more questions come
I think she has a different last name, in the comics at least. But
Okay.
she's almost always been
Let's
known
check
as
that out.
Moira McTaggart.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're two McTaggarts. Probably both from your island, but they're not related.
Yeah, good.
Keeping on the Moira bandwagon, she is in this cold as ice at the start, but also extremely flirty.
Yeah.
And by the end, I can see why Moira has had 3 squeezes in the past few years.
Both Moira and Chuck. I mean, that's the whole backstory is just like they just go from one relationship to the next.
It's a weird relationship. It's a real weird relationship, the Chuck Moira dynamic.
Agreed.
Did we see Bad Guy Bar?
Did we see Bad Guy Bar?
I put Bad Guy Bar, question mark, exclamation mark, or a secondary Bad Guy Bar on Muir Island. A competing Bad Guy Bar.
I didn't notice it. I don't think it's the Bad Guy Bar if anything popped up, but
he definitely went to a like bar or pub or something. Proteus did, but I thought it might have been off Muir Island, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was because at some point he hijacks a captain of a boat or some sort of seaman and starts making his way to Edinburgh. I just got some good moments. Beast says, "A teenager who can quite literally do anything he wishes. Not a comforting thought." And then Meg goes, "So he can turn things upside down. He don't look old enough to shave."
Meg is great.
And then there's a point where Moira's a bit worried or whatever, and her and the prof have a big hug, and then you just see the creepiest of smiles on the professor's face.
I hate Professor X.
A lot of my notes throughout this were like, keep going through as Chuck is the worst person to be helping out this kid, but then he pulls it off in the end. You're like, he wasn't. He actually got through it.
I think the one thing I did really like about it is I thought they were pretty creative with Proteus's powers, because he can kind of do whatever he wants, and he kind of really does. Like when Rogue's taking him down and he just creates 3 mini Rogues to fight back.
Some of the whirling of like buildings and stuff like that was quite Doctor Strange-ish.
Yeah.
What is in the comics? What is Proteus's power?
It's like a reality warper. So you can change the space around him.
So like that time he's riding that green wave at the end of the first part.
He's just, when he's riding that green wave, he's just like manipulating the ground in front of him to be a surfboard thing.
What would have come first, Proteus or the Thing from Fantastic Four?
Thing.
Yeah, Fantastic Four is real old, isn't it?
1962, I think.
Well, I missed what happened to Kevin when he's not Proteus at the end and he has to get carried off in the fashion that Chuck's normally getting carried around.
Oh, and his old man just picks him up.
He seemed to be talking fine, and then he gets carried off. I was like,
he just wanted to get carried by his daddy.
Okay.
I also thought it was interesting that old man McTaggart really 180'd on wanting to have a mutant child.
Yeah, that was not very well explained.
No, he just sort of changed his tune. And it wasn't necessary either, because it was set up for the professor was maybe going to step up.
I liked the
It's not easy being a daddy uncle. Anyway.
I liked the rogue, like it was a tiny little flashback in the middle of part 2.
Yeah.
I think it was based around But I think it was when she was fighting with Kevin, or trying to get through to Kevin, and she was having her own little flashback. I thought that was really good. And Chuck just being an absolute knob end. He's like, Moira, stay back, I'll help them. And what he does to help them is whips out a walkie-talkie and gets two other people to help.
It's good stuff.
Things I quite enjoyed. When Beast talks about paralyzing fear and how Meg must have never felt it before, Meg just turns to her and goes, "You saying I'm a coward, blue boy?"
He calls Rogue something weird. He calls her like cornpone or something. Back off, cornpone.
It must be some sort of redneck reference.
Because she's from the south, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I couldn't understand what he said.
No.
She had a good line about Joe McTaggart. That boy's as slick as fog fat.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Beast is reading a book in this episode, and the cover of the book's blurred.
Yeah.
Oh.
I did read something about this.
So I did some digging as well. So the book he's reading is The Making of a President by Theodore H. White about JFK. And apparently it would be a rights issue because they made a movie based on the book. But I did end up, and I'd love to segue to this article I read called Cartoon Censorship in the X-Men animated series. And there's just lists of scripts where the censors have written what they would like to change. So let's just say go from one of our favourite episodes, Sanctuary Part 1, where we met the likes of Cortez. If it's so, the first page 1, please do not have the astronaut say, "My God." Page 7, please avoid having Cortez call Magneto his savior. Please avoid calling Magneto's followers acolytes. Please do not refer to the objects as killer satellites. Please do not have Cortez accuse the X-Men of assassinating Magneto. Also on this page, Magneto's compartment should not look as though it is burning, nor should Magneto be surrounded by flames. No fireball with him inside it. Perhaps the compartment could break up or eject Magneto before he explodes.
Sorry,
Also,
who's writing these notes?
Like Fox.
Wow.
Or whoever approves episodes. Also, please change the villain's name from Cortez to something non-Hispanic. There is no prominent Hispanic X-Men to provide balance for this kind of negative character.
Oh, wow. But they kept Cortez.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of the stuff that they just went, nah, we're keeping it, I guess. So I remember a lot of the stuff thing.
But you can't change the name.
Nah. Here's one you guys will love from the episode Long Shot. Please substitute for long shots to use of the word killed. Something like destroyed or take their lives would be acceptable.
Both of those options are worse.
It will not be acceptable for Mojo to call anyone numbnuts.
Oh, that would have been great.
The kids in my class are aware of my podcast, and I've told them about X-Men and not saying kill. So whenever I read a story that has kill in it, now I say destroy.
Good.
This is from the last, from Sanctuary Part 2. That's real funny. Please ask the producers to send me a model for Uniscone, including what she looks like with her exoskeleton projected. And what does Wolverine mean? She'd be a handful on a date.
I think we pointed that as well.
Well, this is from One to Come, so I don't want to. I'll just be the last one.
If it's from the Lotus and the Steel, I don't want to know about it.
Also, please lose either Sabretooth's and Tasty or Just Like to avoid a suggestive reference to Silver Fox.
Oh, I hope those are still in.
We'll come back to Sabretooth.
I'll keep that up so we can reference it because it's real good. So anyway, yeah, all in all, Proteus is kind of a couple of shitty episodes, but there are good moments, right?
Yeah, some moments, yeah.
I know what Rogue's, I can remember Rogue's flashback was back to her
Her daddy.
Dad's like this big US Southern man, like
With his gut hanging out.
and she's like cowering on the floor. So I think she probably feels bad for Kevin at that point.
Got a trucker hat, a flannel shirt, and his gut hanging out over his belt.
Yeah, he's gross as he's up there with Mojo.
All
Rogue's
right,
not
family
gross.
ties. So it opens with Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch on the blower. Something is wrong with their father. In a hospital in Romania, he reveals they were adopted. We find out that they were dropped off by the midwife Bova, who is a cow woman.
What the fuck?
They are off to Wundagore to find the midwife. Meanwhile, Magneto breaks into the mansion for some yarns with the professor, and he reckons his wife Magda is alive. We meet the High Evolutionary, who we may have seen in the past, but not ever actually really met, who's a real science experimental type. The twins' mother did die, and it's a big setup at Magda's grave. The animal people turn on Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and Magneto, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver all get caught, along with Meg. Turns out Magneto is their father, and the High Evolutionary wants Magneto, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch's powers to speed up his evolutionary stuff on Wundagore. And a big battle ensues, and the High Evolutionary gets away.
Do you guys like this episode?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Random.
especially the animal people were the best part.
I was like, what is this Bova thing? It's a bull midwife with fingers and a pashmina.
It was the 90s. Do you not
So
remember
the
your
whole-
midwife? Was yours
the
not a
high-
cow woman?
I think it
she's
does a good job of explaining the High Evolutionary's gig, right? He's like trying to make his own world by evolving animals to have human characteristics, but kind of follow his rule.
Yeah, there was one element of this that I possibly missed, but I didn't really understand it as they kept referring to what Magnus did to Magna.
So
And
I've
it
got this
kinda
at the very end of my notes as well. Like, I got the impression that he didn't kill her, and it was a misunderstanding. But at the end, he's like, "They'll probably never forgive me for what I did."
Yeah, it sort of seems like the truth to it was that she didn't go along with his plan to basically force, the mutants to be the superior race at some point, which is what his thing was early on, I guess. So it sort of seems like they disagreed and she left.
That's what it felt like. And then maybe the High Evolutionary killed her, or she died of natural cause. I don't know. But yeah, it seemed weird that maybe he did. In the comics, he's had a couple of wives. One of them finds out he's a mutant, and no, the townsfolk find out he's a mutant and burn down his house, and his wife and child are inside. I can't remember. The Scarlet Witch Quicksilver stuff's been retconned poorly to try and make them not mutants. But for all intents and purposes, for us, they are.
Are they together?
As a couple.
Or are they brother and sister? Like, I don't understand.
Brother and sister.
Yeah, they're twins.
So I don't think
they could be together.
I don't think at any point the name Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver's mentioned.
No, they definitely are.
Yeah, Meg says it.
Does
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
Does he mention that they're brother and sister?
No, but they get referred to as the twins at some point.
And they go
Okay.
and see their father. Their
But
adopted
it
father.
might be like a McTaggart thing. Maybe you're right.
I didn't even know his name
Ultimate
was.
X-Men comics of the 2000s, which is like a alternative timeline. It's highly implied that they're incestuous.
Well, look,
Jeez.
everything that I got
Worked for
from
Game
it
of
was that they were a couple.
But you don't like it.
I didn't pick that up. I really like Magneto's civvies though, with the big black leather trench coat,
Oh,
red shirt,
God, he
black
looked
tie,
good.
and the flowing mullet. But I don't know whether he was wearing his battle costume under it, because as soon as he gets captured, he's inside the High Evolutionary's building or whatever, and he's in his battle costume. It's like,
Hmm.
The
get
animation.
those civvies off him. I'm going to keep those for myself. He can wear his battle costume.
Couple of things I quite liked. When Professor X asks Meg to keep an eye on him, but don't, we don't want any trouble. And Meg says to Professor, "Why? I love trouble." And it's like, mate, your skeleton's made out of metal. Magneto could literally rip you in half.
Yeah, that was a good one. I love trouble. I like that.
What did Magneto do specifically to Meg to make him so incensed?
Just doesn't like bad guys.
It's like Meg was rippable, and I couldn't for the life of me remember what Magneto had specifically done. Because from my perspective, Magneto's almost helped the X-Men more than he's hurt them.
And if anything, Meg is up for violence and aggression and always been held back by the X-Men. But if he was Magneto's lackey, he'd be free to jump on everyone's back.
But it's on brand for Meg, though. He kicks off at everyone. Well, actually, most of the X-Men do. He's just funnier with it. I did like his, well, the worm turns. I don't know what that means.
When he's watching the scene play out at the graveyard and he's on the radio to Beast, you ought to see it, Hank. It's the blasted island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, I love it when he calls him Hank.
I also really enjoyed when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver turn up to take Magneto down in the graveyard, and Scarlet Witch he's like, "What are you doing here?" or whatever, and she goes, "We have come to get revenge for one who has fallen in your path." And Magneto replies, "You'll have to be more specific. There have been many."
That's good stuff.
I reckon he should have just said, "You'll have to be more specific." I reckon that would have been more badass.
Yeah, fair. Did you like it when the High Evolutionary turned Meg into a Wolfman?
Oh, look!
I assumed it was a Wolverine. Is that what he is doing there? I don't actually know what a Wolverine is.
Those real long limbs, kind of like the werewolves in Harry Potter.
Yeah. No, Harry Potter the movie.
Sorry, apologies.
Because the animal heads weren't really explained for a while, so that's probably why I didn't really enjoy the episode as much as other ones, as I was extremely confused. And obviously I thought Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were a couple, and I actually thought Magneto and Magda were a couple for a while until it was explained that they weren't.
Magneto and Magda?
Right? What?
They're not a couple. They're not a... Oh, what?
This is like Wheeler on the snake draft.
I just put is Magneto's sister. I put is Magneto's sister Magda, or is Magda his wife? I said whatever it is, it's easy. They're both Mag to start with.
Yeah, no wonder he called himself Magneto.
Yeah.
So they're together. They were together at some point.
Yeah, they were. I think they were married.
Fuck me.
Yes,
that's lazy. Then
left pregnant with.
That's classic comic book stuff.
The other couple.
Like, his name's Magnus. We'll make his wife Magda because he's Magneto. And Magnus isn't even his name. It's like in the comic books, it's like he's got like heaps of names. Like he was called Magnus, then he was called Eric Lensher, and then he was called Max Eisenhart.
I found in this one as well, similar to that, the last one that you guys hated that was in the desert. It's like sometimes the solutions from like getting away from some of these bad guys is just trying. Like when Magneto actually just tries to break free of those things, he does it instantly.
Well, I wrote that. I quite like that moment because it came across to me that he allowed himself to stand there and look like he was captured, so he could hear the high evolutionary spill the beans.
I just thought he was like, just doing Ned Flanders' dad. And tried nothing, and I'm all out of ideas.
From everything that we've seen, I think Pat, you're on the closer track than you, Bob. I think there's only 20 minutes in the episode, and I don't think he's allowing him. I just think it's
he literally says to the twins, all right, now that we know what's going on, I will use my full power or something like that. Like I think he was deliberately holding back.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, a couple more things.
That part just confused me. I wasn't as confused as some of us, but that part confused me. Yeah.
A couple more things. I like the crossover to Captain Planet. Magneto was shooting Marty's heart, the couple at one point. Not the couple, their brother and sister. The genetic code when he's like doing, I think he's doing Megs. He's turning him into a Wolverine. And the genetic code just seemed to be trigonometry equations. There's like sine, cos, and tan.
I'd love to know what the notes were. Eh? Put some math stuff up on the board.
This is actually trigonometry, not genetic code.
Didn't get flagged on the censorship article.
And I don't remember him being called Quicksilver, so I called him Baby Blue Boy.
Like it.
Every time he did anything, there was like a Looney Tune cartoon sound. So like he did like a spin at one point. It was like like Tasmanian Devil was spinning around.
It's good.
And listen, it's like on the Long Shot episode with what's that Jabba the Hutt guy's name?
Mojo.
He's got like the dumbass soundtrack, whereas this guy's got the Looney Tunes soundtrack.
Yeah, I liked it. Should we get into Bloodlines?
Yeah.
I like that episode more after hearing Sam's rap on it.
Well, it was confusing for me. That's why I didn't like it. I didn't know there was animal heads and brothers and couples and sisters and God knows what else. Incest.
No, it's
Wonderful
fair.
Mountain.
It's fair.
Hippies. Right. Bloodlines. So Graydon Creed is back.
And his armband.
It doesn't go far though, because the Friends of Humanity have upgraded to KKK inspired masks. So really on the nose there.
It's the Friends of Humanity High Command. They've obviously got some big backers. They've got like a big building and stuff now.
Yeah, we've slipped back into our own. We've been slipped back into our old ways. Go, Bob. Do the summary.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. So he wants back, but it turns out he's got a big mutant family tree. So if he can fix his family tree, I'm assuming with destroying them, he's allowed back in. And then it cuts to Nightcrawler turning up to the mansion. He's got a letter saying his mother will be killed if he doesn't come. I think it says, "Come along or the consequences could be fatal." So Rogue, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, and Meg go with Nightcrawler. And the location is the Friends of Humanity's new HQ. Turns out Nightcrawler's mum is Mystique. And then there's some fighting. Mystique seems like she's a bit of a bitch, but ends up saving Kurt. And then the police turn up, and the Friends of Humanity escape, or some of them do, and punish Graydon Creed for his failure by dropping him off at Sabretooth's place. How good is Meg's Beast mask for the trick-or-treaters?
Yeah,
So
great.
good. And
Also,
Beast isn't even there. He's doing that for his own entertainment. Like he's not even making off Beast. He's like, oh, I'm going to wear one of those.
I want to know who sorted that out. Who organised the Beast mask? Do you think it was Meg? Surely it was Meg.
Meg's got. I need a mask. Oh, Beast is a celebrity. Remember, because he was in that high-profile court case. So maybe it's like those masks you can buy at the markets in Camden.
Cyclops would have can look down his nose at Meg for doing that.
Big time.
Yeah, he would have been whinging heaps if he was on most of these episodes.
Pat, did you notice that one of the trick-or-treaters had a classic yellow Daredevil mask?
No,
I know you wouldn't have, Sam.
That's good.
You were right.
The one
Sean.
that's potentially coming back in the She-Hulk series.
Indeed. I thought there was some nice... Oh, sorry?
Sorry, just carrying on from that. I thought it was a bit ridiculous that children, they would know. Like, there's obviously this big anti-mutant sentiment within the community. Surely there's no one knocking on the friggin' mansion's door on Halloween.
Do the public know that's where the X-Men hang out?
What? Surely.
You would think
Well,
so, but
Maybe not. Maybe
It's
not.
the
because
school, isn't it?
otherwise,
It's the school at this point, isn't it? It's the
it's school for gifted youngsters,
Yeah.
of which there's only one teenager.
is that definitely come up in the animated series, or is that what it is in the comics?
I don't know if it gets addressed as that title, but sometimes it's called the School for Gifted Youngsters, and sometimes it's called well, maybe, I don't know, something else, but yeah. They don't actually really talk about it as a school at all in the animated series, you're right.
It's referred to as the school, but I don't remember anything about being for gifted children. And Jubilee's not gifted.
What do you mean? Sparklies.
I thought there was some nice foreshadowing when Rogue talks about that'd be as outrageous as me being Nightcrawler's kin or something like that. I thought there was a really nice heartfelt chat between Jubilee and Nightcrawler about being orphans until it was probably ruined for Sam by Nightcrawler preaching.
Fucking God,
I've got a few of those. Yeah, I've got a few of those notes of Sam must be hating this.
Of course, God Boy is trying to convert her. I'm out on him. What I wrote.
There's a good scene when they're like scoping out the dam, and Nightcrawler's like, "I've got to go." Bova's like, "All right," and then they decide they're all going to go in because blah blah blah. And Meg goes, "Now that we've worked all that out, let's go visiting." Shink, and pops his claws.
Yeah. That's not the best Meg line. He takes the piss out of God Boy. Just have a little faith, pal. I hear it can work wonders.
So I guess the big thing about this episode, right, is Creed is Mystique's son as well, which is so Graydon Creed is. So Mystique obviously also had a thing with Sabretooth.
Did the nasty with him.
I wanted to see that throwback. We got the one for Nightcrawler. We didn't get his one.
Did you know that?
I had to reverse once, and I still thought she'd said something else at one point, and I had to put the captions up when she opens up the story with "Your father was an Austrian count." I thought she said something different at least twice. Had to go back.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, so did you guys know that was the case?
About Mystique?
Yeah.
No,
So I don't know if that's
it.
comic book accurate, but I knew it from the series.
I didn't remember it. I remember from the series Nightcrawler and Rogue potentially being siblings. I don't remember the Creed one.
Like in the comics, Nightcrawler and Rogue are like Rogue's Mystique's adopted daughter, and Nightcrawler is Mystique's daughter. But Nightcrawler's father is another mutant called Azazel, who looks like Nightcrawler but is red.
I think
Azazel? Yeah, I think that's it.
I should have got the hint because we've already been told that Mystique is Rogue's mother, and we've already been told that God Boy's mother is Mystique. And the episode's called Bloodlines. And I still didn't notice until it was made obvious that they were brother and sister. As a result, I've drawn Mystique's family tree out at the bottom of my notes, and it's just got. So if I'm right, Mystique got with Sabretooth, which produced Creed, and Mystique got with the Austrian Count, which is Nightcrawler, and then Mystique adopted Rogue as a single mother.
All correct. In the comic books, Mystique adopts Rogue with what's her name, Pat? The lady who can see the future?
Destiny.
And Mystique's
Add that to the family tree.
Yeah, Destiny
in there. Dresses in all dark blue and has a gold face for some reason.
No, it's a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of things I enjoyed. I think Creed's a real good villain because he's like he wouldn't be a good villain if he's just like I hate mutants, but he's like super unbalanced and like clearly got like actual issues about it, and the Sabretooth thing really fucks with him. Like I quite like how unhinged he is about everything and sort of melting down a bit.
Yeah,
I disagree.
He's quite unpredictable at this point.
I
He
disagree.
seems the most dangerous.
You don't like him?
I think he's all right, but like the best X-Men villains, I would not put Creed anywhere near. Like from what we've seen, like I think they do villains really, really well, and the villains they do really, really well are extremely in control. A lot of what they say carries weight. Like Creed just seems like a fucking lunatic.
I suppose it just makes him a little bit different then.
Yeah. I thought the Mystique flashback of her having to abandon Nightcrawler was actually quite sad, and
Yeah.
I was like, I was a bit emotional about it, to be honest. You know, as a father now, you know, it gets to me.
Well, it didn't have her actually biffing him in the water either. I was waiting for that, but maybe just place him in.
And I like how, even though like something obviously got through to her because she saves him, and but definitely my favorite part of the episode is when they drop Graydon Creed off at Sabretooth's place, and Sabretooth says, "Come to Papa."
And is that the
what do you
first time
say,
we've seen...
boy? Come to Papa. He's also been using the manscape. Where's all his hair gone?
He's got a pony.
Yeah.
Is that the first time we see him
shaved
not
his
in
body.
costume?
Not in his lycra.
Yeah, is that the answer to maybe a question I had in maybe the second episode we did of this? Is it a lycra? Is it just his body? Is it paint?
In the alternative timeline, we get a glimpse of him wearing his Age of Apocalypse costume, which is pretty much just orange again, but it's more like a tank top, and he's got like the metal thing around his neck that Magneto has. Because quite a lot of the characters have that in Age of Apocalypse in honor of their great leader. Leader
Cola.
I sent you guys my amazing memory. The last note I had on the episode was just too much God. Every single time
might be in your notes.
Every single time God Boys, it's his like. Yeah, I get that characters have to have a shtick, but like, what a terrible, terrible shtick to have.
The thing they really missed with Nightcrawler, which they actually get really, really good in the 2000s cartoon X-Men Evolution, is he's a God boy, but he's also like a real like a prankster and like quite funny and a bit of a jokey guy. And this one is just real dour and serious all the time.
Like he's dry as a biscuit.
X-Men Evolution, that was a good cartoon.
Yeah,
it is on Disney.
No, it's not. I actually had a thought about that. If we ever once we finish this, because we've got 3 episodes to go, maybe 4.
No, 3.
I think it's 3. Yeah. If we ever want to return to this down the line, I'd love to maybe watch one episode of each of the other X-Men cartoons that have come out since, just for comparison.
I'd be keen.
Because I think you've got X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men, and then there's a Japanese X-Men, is it anime? Which is quite interesting.
Throw an X-Men 97 too. Cover that off too.
Can't wait for that. We're covering all of that. Weekly recaps. Any final thoughts on this batch?
Not a bad batch. Proteus was the weakest, but I didn't hate Proteus. Proteus gave you those first sort of 2 or 3 minutes with that backstory. Yeah.
Holy heck. I've just had a look at what's coming up for the next episode.
Oh, look. I've done a little bit of looking ahead, and I've been talking about the Lotus and the Steel for about fucking a year now, but that's coming up. It looks like it's just Wolverine City.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we've got the Lotus and the Steel. It's definitely a Meg episode. Weapon X lies in a videotape. Not only is it a Meg episode, but it's a great play on the sex lies in a videotape. I know everyone's absolutely pumped for Have Yourself a Morlock Little Christmas.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like Meg's a Grinch in that one, which is great.
And then this is a 7-episode. Beyond Good and Evil 1 to 4. I tell you, there'll be things, Sam, you won't like about it, certainly, but it's definitely character cameo heavy. Lots of comebacks and good villains.
Apocalypse is steady throughout those 4 episodes.
Yeah, he plays a big part.
That's good. I like Apocalypse. He's better than Creed.
He's at this point I would consider Magneto at worst an anti-hero, so Apocalypse is probably the best villain.
Yeah, agreed.
Worse than Chet?
Is Creed worse than Chet?
No, Apocalypse. Who goes on top? Who's the baddest?
Chet sucks.
Anyway, but we're going back to the future anytime soon. So,
would you be stoked if Chet was in Beyond Good and Evil?
I'd be stoked.
Apocalypse. Everyone's going at Apocalypse, and Apocalypse walks away and reveals the man behind the curtain is Chet.
Where I reckon Chet would be strong is that on that Bad Guy Bar spin-off, I reckon him just there for comic relief, real steamed at the bar, not really involved in any of the real storylines, but just giving one-liners. I think that's where Chet's strength would lie.
It is real hard to picture Apocalypse at Bad Guy Bar.
Yeah.
Well, I could see him owning it.
But I was just thinking about the future. We're not going to get any more Stig anytime soon, if at all, for the rest of us.
That's so bizarre that popped up, because I was not expecting a Storm Meg relationship, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's good.
So that's a rip from the comics. He and in Days of Future Past, the actual one, they make a last run to stop the Sentinels or whatever, and Meg's dating Storm, or they're a couple or whatever, and or they're getting absolutely smashed. And Colossus does the old fastball special and throws Meg at a Sentinel, and it just turns around and just blasts his entire flesh, and all that you see hit the deck is just a cindering metal skeleton. Which is mint. I think we've got at least a 3-week gap before the next episode. Is that fair? Well, 2-week gap rather than 1 week.
Yeah, so
next week we've got Simpsons.
Yeah,
and then Counting Crows.
And it's Simpsons again.
Oh, so we do have a 3-week gap. So X-Men won't be back until the 2nd week of September.
Not bad for my X-Men fatigue.
Not bad when you've got to watch 7 episodes.
So it looks like 7 episodes, and then we've got season 5, which is 10 episodes.
Yeah, we just do. I think we're doing 1 episode, 5 each.
Beautiful.
Yeah, season 5 is very odd. I can't remember what it's called, but there's an episode.
All the Phalanx ones and shit.
Oh, the Phalanx is all right. Heavy on Forge content. But there's a Jubilees fairy tale something or other that is absolutely awful. Definitely. Yeah. So
we should just mug it off and not do it.
I don't know, because there's a part of me that thinks it might be Pat's favourite episode.
There's Chet in it.
Oh, it's bad.
Okay.
All right, should we round this thing out and get out of here? Don't have to do my usual plug because I filled it up top.
But just in case.
Oh, yeah, well, WIW T90S, Insta, Twitter. And the podcast's available pretty much everywhere, except all the places that it's not available. Like, subscribe, give us a review, listen on mute, definitely download. Good for the algorithm. All right. Mission accomplished, buddy.
Let's go home.
No one's listening at this point.
Not on YouTube, anyway.
Really like our little jingle, eh?